United, Scott, it's very easy to get negative. You know, if you're a United fan as well, you're thinking, oh, more injury problems. That's the one thing we didn't want after the curse of last season. Erik Ten Hag talking about how he's delighted not to have a longer contract than the one he's currently got. Of course, he extended his original one by 1 year. Does he mean what he's saying? Does he know what he's doing? Where are Manchester United going?
Yeah, look, I think the problem last season was, and I actually, in many respects, even though I don't think it was the right decision, I'm really happy that he stayed. I know that a lot of the United fans really love him and respect him for bringing 2 trophies in 2 seasons. And I think he held himself with a lot of dignity with some of the questions that was being asked on a regular basis when he was being pounded on, really, with, you know, when things weren't going well and all the problems off the pitch as well. For too long, you know, that the player culture at United has not been good enough, and players have known they can do what they want and the manager's going to go before they will. Whereas, so I like the fact they've done it, but please don't tell me that they're 100% behind him, you know, the Ineos and the board, because why would you then go off and speak to other people? You wouldn't do that. If you think you got the right man, you just stick with that. And maybe people might turn around and say, well, in business that goes on all the time, but in football it doesn't. And in football there's a ripple effect to that. I can tell you from a player's point of view, he doesn't have the power that he wants, because I think if things don't go well, then I can see within 6 to 8 months him losing his job again. I really can. Last season, the stats, whatever you say about the injuries, was not good enough. Okay, they won the FA Cup, but in terms of the worst finish ever in the Premier League, the amount of goals they conceded, you know, it looked as if they didn't really have an identity under Ten Hag, and I think that's one of the biggest issues. Say what you want about Chelsea and Maresca, but you know there's a philosophy there and how they want to play. Now you can turn around and say, well, it's all about winning, and it is. It's ultimately all about winning, but they weren't doing that last season. They're not doing that in pre-season. I like the fact that they tried to, as I said earlier, bring some players in as early as possible, but they've got injuries already. Now, you know, even up front, again, the philosophy you can talk about, you know, the fed up of having the sort of experienced players or players who, you know, are not going to, on big wages and not going to try 100%. So they brought in Xerxes alongside Højlund as well. I felt was a little bit unfair to ask him to lead the line for a club the size of Manchester United. And I think they needed, in terms of strikers, that one, again, world-class, ready-made player, because that's a position in one of, if not the biggest club in the world, where there's so much pressure. So I worry for Ten Hag, and I know that a lot of United fans don't want to hear that, and they don't like to hear that, and they don't agree with that. But I think if they really wanted him, one, they wouldn't have spoken to other people, and two, they wouldn't have just extended the option. They'd have given him another 2 or 3 year contract on top.
Well, in many ways, you know, the fact that they won the FA Cup just complicated the whole issue. Presumably, had they lost that match, he would have gone. You say it all comes down to results, and it does. And, you know, the one thing I would say with my Spurs hat on is that, yes, the league season was a disaster and they don't appear to have a great identity. But he has won 2 trophies in 2 seasons. There aren't exactly that many up for grabs with so many other big teams. So, you know, if you went back 30 years or so and you're winning a League Cup followed by an FA Cup, you're a very successful club manager. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, are United fans to a degree a little deluded, particularly when you've got City at the moment, as strong as they are, Liverpool and Arsenal? Should they not be pleased that they do have a manager that knows how to win things, even if they've lost some of their zip, some of their bite when it comes to their regular league positions?
Do you know what, Marcus? I don't think the United fans are deluded at all. I think it's almost people from the outside saying that United should be back where they were, and that was over a decade ago now. I think a lot of the United fans like Ten Hag and want to give him another go, and are fed up of this sort of conveyor belt of managers coming in and out all the time and seeing their players, for whatever reason, not giving their all for the Manchester United shirt. So I think they're actually quite realistic in that. But the bottom line is, you can't be finishing 8th if you're Manchester United. And forget about winning titles. You know, even if Pep wasn't around, they were a million miles off chasing a title. Manchester United, whatever you say about what that was over a decade ago with Sir Alex Ferguson, should be chasing top 4 every single season as a bare minimum. And then you've got the cups as well. And they were a million miles off that. So, look, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has come in. He's brought a lot of people in behind the scenes. I'm still not seeing something that makes me believe that United are going to be finishing top 4. They could if things go well, but these injuries and the way pre-season is going is just leading me towards, things can change of course, that it's going to be another tough season, and I can't see Ten Hag lasting this one.
It's interesting, he's come up with some quotes about the contract situation, and he says, I think 2 years in football is already a long time, and in 2 years we'll see what we've built on top of what we've achieved now. And then when he was pressed on how, if you'd been given 4 years you'd have much more financial certainty and security, he says, no, I don't need that. I don't need that security. It's important that we're together, we're working together, and when you work together you are in good moments together, but also in bad moments. When it's been questioned, and he's referring to the support then in the surroundings, then of course that will flow into a team, and it's not helpful in achieving success. I don't need this because I have enough security in my life and in my career, and I have enough belief that I know when I have a team I will achieve success. Now, do you think he really believes that, or is it false bravado?
Right, so there's two parts to that. Does he need it? Does he need the security? No, he doesn't. I've been told that he's a very rich man and comes from a rich family, and he doesn't need financial security at all. But what I would say, again, going from some sort of business to football, I think by giving a 4 or 5 year contract in the way that, well, Chelsea have tried to have to Maresca, but maybe that's a bad example because of what's happened of the last couple of seasons. In football, if players look at a manager who's been given a 4 year contract, they know that guy's here to stay. And I think United under Sir Jim Ratcliffe will sort of honour that as long as possible. The fact that they haven't done that tells me if they don't start well, then there's problems for Ten Hag. So does he need the financial security? No, he doesn't. He can walk away from football and never work again, and he'd still be absolutely fine from a financial point of view. But does it send a message out to the players subconsciously, psychologically, that actually already they've gone round and spoken to different people and they're not giving him a long-term contract? They don't fully believe in their man. And the fact that it took so long after the FA Cup final, where, they didn't come out and say that and ended up going to Ibiza and saying, look, okay, we've spoken to Thomas Tuchel and maybe a few others as well, but we decided you're the best man. I'm sorry, that doesn't work in football, not from a playing point of view. The players know that they're not 100% happy, and if things don't go well, and that just means, again, he can't be that kind of Fergie type where I'm the boss, you do what I say. And it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with Jadon Sancho. Yeah, they're talking now about he might be the false nine, when really we're probably thinking that he doesn't even want him at the club. And now he's going to have to use him and rely on him as possibly as a false nine. So it's fascinating to see how the first couple of months of the season will go. Do you think
that players and managers can resolve issues such as they had, which appeared to be terminal at the time? Can you build bridges in that circumstance?
It depends on the individuals. It absolutely depends on the personality of the individuals involved. My guess, and it's just purely a guess, is no. But with these two individuals. But if Jadon Sancho is actually willing to say, do you know what, Gaffer, I shouldn't have done that. I'm out of order, but I felt you were out of order there. And he could turn around and say, do you know what, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said that publicly. Let's go forward together. I don't see that happening. It might do. It might already have happened. But my guess is he's wanting to use him to try and sell him. But with the injuries now of like Rasmus Højlund, and there's no guarantee on Xerxes as well, again, Manchester United, arguably the biggest club in the world, are playing Jadon Sancho, who's not done well for United and actually wasn't even at United last season as a number 9, and he's a winger. They're not in a good place right now.
Yeah, potentially alarming situation. One other player I want to ask you about, because I've heard some good things about him in pre-season. He's had injury problems, has not settled since he arrived from Chelsea. But do you think that Mason Mount can at least make something of his career at Old Trafford?
Do you know what? I really hope so. I really hope so, because I think he was a superb player for Chelsea. I really do. In his first 3 seasons, full first seasons, he won Player of the Year twice. I think he might have come second in one of those as well, the other one. And he had a really sort of bad time last season, didn't he? With injuries, I think people thought it was too much money. First game in the season, it didn't go well against Wolves. That midfield looked terrible. No balance to it at all. And then since he's come back, when has been fit, and quite often, Marcus, when you come back, you're not fit. You're not fully fit anyway. You're not match fit. Okay, you might not be injured, but you're nowhere near where you know you want to be. He just needs a really good pre-season. There's a player there. There's an England player there. And if he's able to fit into the teamwork that Ten Hag initially wanted, I genuinely believe he must have said, I want someone like Mason Mount. So I think if you've got the managers back in, it certainly helps. But there's no doubt about it. He hasn't justified it as yet. But he was a top-class player for Chelsea. And I hope for his sake he becomes a top-class player for United.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.